Arguably the most important knot to learn when learning how to tie flies is the half hitch. It is the basis for the whip finish, which is a little more complex. The whip finish is used to finish up a fly, typically right behind the hook eye. The half hitch is used to lock earlier wraps into place and can be used anywhere on the fly. If you can't get the whip finish down just yet, a bunch of half hitches can also serve to finish a fly. For a right-handed tyer, start by pulling the thread back towards you away from the fly with your left hand. Place the pointer and middle fingers of your right hand separated into a V on top of the thread and press down gently so the thread pushes into your skin just a little and won't easily slip off. Twist your fingers to the right, forming a loop. The next step is a little tricky. Move your fingers toward the hook, separating your fingers from each other as you go to take up the slack. Slide the top length of thread coming off your pointer finger along the bottom thread. Follow the bottom thread under the hook eye, right up to the hook shank. Then twist your fingers back a half turn to the left, placing the loop you formed earlier over the eye of the hook and onto the hook shank. Once you have the loop around the hook shank, you can use your thumb and pointer finger to pinch the back of the loop and guide the thread into place. This takes a little practice to perfect. So pull the thread tight, fingers on top, twist right to form a loop, use your pointer finger to guide the top thread under and around the hook eye, and twist back left to transfer the loop to the hook. A half hitch can also be tied using a half hitch tool. This is basically a tapered stick with a hole in the end that fits onto the hook eye. Push the tool down onto the thread and twist it to the right while bringing the bobbin up and to the left to form a loop around the tool. Then push the tool against the hook eye and pull on the thread to draw the loop down the tool and onto the hook. Make sure you tighten the loop securely. What's happening here in essence is the same as if I wrap like this. The end of the thread coming out of the bobbin is behind the working end, which is the end closest to the hook. When the knot is tightened down, the working end is firmly trapped under the loop. So I can take the thread and wrap it around, or I can just spin the tool, which is what you'll probably end up doing once you get the hang of this. It's more efficient to use the tool, but for the purpose of explanation, it may be easier to understand if you think about the thread wrapping around the half hitch tool. The nice thing about using a half hitch tool is that it's easy to use and you get pretty good knot placement. The nice thing about using your hands is that they are always with you, and quite honestly, it's a little easier to place the knot where you want. Also, using your hands, you can place a half hitch anywhere along the hook shank, while the half hitch tool works best for knots closer to the eye of the hook. One of the more difficult parts of tying flies is the whip finish at the end. The good news is that if you can twist thread like this, you're well on your way to completing a whip finish. A whip finish is basically a series of linked half hitches. A half hitch would finish like this. A whip finish is going to continue on around like this. So the trick here is, if you're a right-handed tyer, you are spinning your fingers continually to the right, twisting your thread over and over again. With a whip finish, these twists are placed over the hook. The thread coming out of the bobbin stays parallel to the hook shank with the wraps placed over it and can slide back and forth. At this point, I'm going to tighten the loops up and complete the whip finish. Again, it's a series of twists to the right. The first step is a little different since, after creating the initial loop, you have to untwist your fingers before placing the loop over the hook eye. Starting from the beginning, I'll do a twist to create a loop, untwist my fingers, then place the loop around and over the hook shank, then untwist my hand to the starting point and do it again. My fingers are going around to create a loop, separating, placing the loop over the hook shank, untwisting and doing it again. So the pattern is twist, wrap, leave the thread there, untwist, twist, wrap, untwist, twist, wrap, untwist. A whip finish tool can make your whip finishes quicker and more precise. Start by pulling the thread out away from the fly and towards you, and hold the whip finish tool up high to keep it from rotating. Bring the front hook underneath, catching the thread. Bring the whip finish tool to the right. While maintaining an angle that keeps the thread from falling off the front hook, bring the bobbin around to catch the thread extending out of the bobbin on the back arm of the whip finish tool. Slide your hand down onto the rotating barrel to allow the tool to rotate down. The whip finish tool should now be directly underneath the hook with the thread forming a number 4. With your left hand, keep the thread coming out of the bobbin right above the hook, and with your right hand, rotate the whip finish tool around the hook. Lay down consecutive wraps starting on the bend side of the hook and moving towards the eye. 5 wraps is a good number. When you've got as many wraps as you want, Angle the end of the whip finish tool down and away from the hook while sliding the rear arm closer and closer. At some point, the angle on the rear arm will be great enough that the thread will pop off, leaving a loop around the end of the tool. Pull the bobbin back, tightening up the loop around the end of the whip finish tool and popping it off onto the hook. Pull tight to secure the whip finish, then do another. So again, come underneath, catch the thread, bring it around, wrapping the thread around the hind arm, twist to the right, forming a 4, and now I'm allowing the tool to rotate freely in my fingers. This piece here needs to stay parallel to the hook shank in one place, and it's wrapped around by the end of the thread coming off the hook at the end of the whip finish tool. When you have enough wraps, angle the whip finish tool down, allowing the thread to pop off the spring-loaded arm, then draw the loop tight.